11 best flowers to grow in late spring. The large flowered alliums typically bloom from May to June. These ornamental members of the onion family are grown for their beauty rather than their flavor. In colder climates, the bulbs are planted in the fall, while warmer zones can get away with planting them in the spring. Their only drawback is the foliage can sometimes start to yellow before the flowers have finished blooming, so be sure to mix them with plants that will camouflage the leaves. Otherwise, the plants are fairly low maintenance, though they will require regular watering while in flower. Some flowers go in and out of style, but Bleeding Heart has stood the test of time. Bleeding Heart is a fairly substantial plant, growing to around 2 to 3 feet tall with a similar spread. Its puffy, heart-shaped blooms arrive from April to May, dangling off the arching stems. The plant typically goes dormant in the heat of summer. However, the fringed leaf varieties not only stick around, but they can repeat bloom throughout the summer and gradually self-seed. Keep the plants well watered throughout the summer, but make sure they're not sitting in soggy soil. No pruning or deadheading is necessary. Primroses flower in brilliant shades of pink, purple, yellow, and more. The flowers typically appear in early to mid-spring, but they remain in bloom for 6 weeks or longer. Most primroses will happily self-sow throughout your garden, though not to the point of being invasive. If you plant more than one color flower, expect some cross-pollination and surprising colors the following season. For the most part, the primroses you find for sale will be the modern hybrids Primula x Polyantha. Primroses are generally low-maintenance plants. Make sure they get regular watering during the warmer months, as well as some shade during the hottest part of the day. Some gardeners complain that they don't have enough sun for a flower garden. But there are advantages to working in a shade garden, including the respite from the hot sun and the delicate-looking plants that grow there. One of the loveliest is Brunnera Macrophylla, also known as Siberian bugloss, heartleaf Brunnera, or false forget-me-nots. In mid to late spring, the plants send up sprays of brilliant blue flowers that resemble forget-me-nots, though a bit more vivid in color. Make sure to keep the soil moist by watering as necessary, especially for new plants. Brunnera plants usually don't require fertilizer unless you have poor soil. Native Columbine Aquilegia canadensis, with its nectar-rich flowers, seems to be disappearing from gardens. That's a shame because it's a beautiful plant that tends to attract many pollinators, including hummingbirds. In its place has come a series of hybrids, each a more intriguing color than the last. These are deceptively delicate-looking plants. They can handle all kinds of weather and will gladly seed themselves around the garden. Their flowers tend to bloom from April to May. Keep new plants consistently moist, but then you can cut back on watering only during dry spells. Fertilize monthly to encourage vibrant foliage and flowers. Many of us hear geranium and think of the free-blooming red plants that often decorate window boxes. While great plants, these are not geraniums but of the genus Pelargonium. The geraniums referred to here are the genus of true hardy geraniums. They start blooming in late spring, and many of the new varieties, such as the Roseanne hybrid, will keep blooming until the first frost. These are low-growing, mounding plants that like to spread and intermingle with neighboring foliage, giving a garden a sense of maturity. This is a low-maintenance plant that you typically only have to water during a dry spell. Perennial geraniums can benefit from a slow-release fertilizer. Helleborus plants can be a bit expensive, but if you start with 3 to 5 small plants, they can establish larger clumps fairly quickly through self-seeding. It is worth the wait for these beautiful flowers. Typically appearing in April, the blooms start off facing the ground. This makes them belly plants because you have to get down low to see them. But save your knees the trouble, and be patient. Once a plant grows to its 12 to 18-inch height, you'll be able to enjoy the blooms while standing. These plants like some moisture, but don't let them sit in water. Add fertilizer when you plant them, as well as in the spring and early fall for established plants. It's hard not to appreciate the flowers on Jacob's ladder. Blooming in April to May, the plants hold their flower stalks high above the ladder like foliage. The most common varieties bloom in shades of purple or purplish blue, but some cultivars come in white, pink, and yellow. These alternative colors are often difficult to find, and the plants might not be as hardy. Cutting back the plant after it blooms can encourage reblooming in late summer. Maintain medium moisture levels with regular watering to keep the plant blooming for longer. And add a balanced fertilizer in the early spring, as well as once the flowers have faded. If you're in the vicinity of lilac flowers, you'll know by their lovely fragrance. Lilacs are long-lived shrubs that are relatively low maintenance in the garden. They typically bloom for several weeks in April to May. Removing the flowers shortly after they are done blooming will allow the plant to put its energy into growing strong roots and healthy top growth. This also allows the plant to set even more blooms for the following year. Keep lilacs moderately moist, but don't overwater as this can lead to poor blooms. The bushes can benefit from fertilizer in the spring, as long as your soil isn't too high in nitrogen. Gardeners tend to love or hate lily of the valley. The plant forms a dense mat of wandering roots and is considered invasive in some parts of the United States. But that trait also makes lily of the valley a good choice for spots where you want a ground cover that will help to keep the soil in place. And then there's its heavenly scent. For such a tiny, low-growing flower, the fragrance can permeate the air. The plant typically blooms in April. Water your plants whenever the top inch or two of soil is dry. And use a balanced, slow-release fertilizer every 3 months during the growing season. Pansies and other violas are beloved for their bright, cheerful colors. They typically bloom from around April to June. Pansies can handle light frosts and chilly winds at both ends of the growing season. Older varieties tend to fade away in summer's heat, but they might perk up again in the fall. Modern introductions are better able to handle the heat. Regular watering can help to extend the blooming period. Moreover, pansies appreciate some fertilizer, but too much can make them leggy. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more interesting videos. And please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm.